right. Okay, it's Wednesday. I know. I mean, we've been doing this now for 2.5 months, the 2-week thing. We usually broadcast on a Sunday. We put the Wednesday show on to kind of bring everyone together as the con community, those shows that we're missing over the course of the summer months. But I know that some people still a little bit freaked out when the notification goes out, when we do these shows on a Wednesday. So if you have got your notifications turned on, thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you along. As always, I want to say thank you very much indeed to all of our Patreon supporters. The Patreon payment came out or went into my account on Monday, which means it was very gratefully accepted, because the SoundCloud payment came out around that kind of time. Every penny that you donate to our Patreon, it really does allow us to keep doing what we do, especially now that we're starting to put these shows out on the audio platforms. So later on this evening, you'll be certainly seeing this on SoundCloud, on iTunes, and on Spotify. So please do like, subscribe, follow, comment, plant your flag, and show your support. We really appreciate any and every element that comes to. And as always, do follow on all of our social medias, on Facebook, on An Englishman in San Diego, and Englishman SEC on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Now, we are going to be doing some more stuff when it comes to the Instagram page, obviously with San Diego Comic Con not taking place, but we do have some locals that are feeling very upset that they're not having their party come to their town. So they're going to be wandering around, certainly when it comes to the actual week of San Diego Comic-Con. We'll get 1 or 2 pictures up as well. It's not going to look the same at all. But please do follow the account, because, yeah, of course, anything that you do and say, it's your show at the end of the day, and you're trying to get into all sorts of... sorry, I'm getting a message from Eric. I sound like a robot. No, that's probably the English language. It's probably the English accent. So don't worry about it. We should be okay. If I do, let me know if you're listening now. Jump in on the comments. Let us know where you're listening from. Let us know what you're up to. Toby says morning. Eric says I can't understand you. Ah, right. Okay. Let's see if I can do something about that. Any better? I've clicked a button. You'll have to let me know if it's any better. But we could understand. We hopefully we can understand you, Eric. We'll get to that. Yeah, let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what you're up to today. Let us know what you're reading, and also what you're excited about when it comes to the announcements for Comic-Con at home, which obviously the announcements are coming out. Hello there, everybody. Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. There was in the window. He was there, ERIK LARSEN. I think he just thought there was a slight technical issue, and hopefully he's just going to try and log back in. Let us know if there's any questions you want to put to Eric, any things that you want to discuss, things that you're looking forward to when it comes to Comic-Con at home, considering that we have been hearing slightly disturbing issues that Marvel may be skipping this particular virtual convention. We'll get into that at the back end of the show. We'll talk about that. But we have somebody who's joined us now, and hopefully, I mean, I know he's typing away, but no, we're here now. So hopefully we can hear you and you can hear me. How are we doing, Eric?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Oh, listen. It's the thin cable between the 2 tin cans crossing the Atlantic. That's what it is.
Lord,
we're talking technology, which is at this point stressed and strained because everybody is on Zoom calls and on some kind of video conferencing software at this point. So I'm stunned that over the last couple of months that the internet has not just crapped itself and fallen completely out of shape. It's
we build it out.
I think we're working on it. But no, like I say, welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. My name is Leonard Sultana. Each and every Wednesday and Sunday we talk comics, comic conventions, and those fun and interesting things that we get to see at such shows when we get the chance to attend them. Obviously, this has been a year of cancellations, of extreme financial distress for a lot of people, and of course, a lot of hardships. This has been a unique experience for a generation. But at the end of the day, and when we all come out of this, we are going to be looking for stories. We're going to be looking for storytellers, and we are joined by one of the best. It's a pleasure to have ERIK Larsen joining us. Hello, ERIK. How are you, sir?
Hey, good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I mean, how has the whole situation been for you when it comes to lockdown? I mean, I think we were very briefly talking before we kind of came on air that you've gone lockdown hardcore.
Oh yeah. We basically don't leave the house.
Wow. Okay.
So we're having groceries delivered, and it's a big enough house that we can kind of walk around and do circles, as we call it now. My son had some weights, so it's like, all right, let's do this. And to get some exercise and some semblance of whatever. But we went up and picked my youngest son up from college, unpacked, took all his stuff from the dorm and shoved it in our car, drove home, and he's been doing school remotely since then. And we have really just been bunkered down. When we go outside, which is very infrequent, we'll just go on a short walk somewhere. And
whereabouts are you based in
we're in San Francisco.
Right. Okay.
So,
because I mean, obviously we keep a close eye on numbers and stats and peaks and troughs, and I know that San Francisco, I believe it hasn't been a good time there.
It's certainly been worse in other places. Southern California is much more hard hit, mostly because it's more enticing to go outside in Southern California. Here it gets coolish during the summer and can be foggy, and so it's like, all right, well, it's not that nice out anyway, so we'll just stay in. But yeah, it's chaos out there.
Absolutely. Well, it's when I spoke. I mean, when we started these shows, when lockdown happened, and we managed to get an influx of creators on the show, mostly because all of a sudden they were indoors and not finding themselves at a loose end. So I had an influx of guests that were available to talk to us on the podcast.
Yeah. At this point, every day is every other day. So
well, yeah,
it's like, oh, I've had 110 consecutive work days in a row. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the conversation always, I mean, because I was wondering, the question was, how's things changed? At which point every creator I spoke to said, well, I work in comics. I'm in the basement or I'm in my office. I'm stuck to the table 7-8 hours a day. I'm fixed on that. So I'm stuck indoors. I'm not really talking to many people. Nothing's changed really. So we are hearing a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, I think what I wanted to start on is kind of the things that we're missing, like those comic conventions and those things that we're kind of that interaction with fans that a lot of people are missing out on. I mean, what was the last comic convention that you went to before things went sideways?
I did go to a convention in the Los Angeles area. I don't remember the name of the convention, but I did go to one earlier this year, so February.
Okay, so you did manage to attend at least one this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when one of our good friends is the organizer of the San Diego Comic Fest, and it's when he turns around and says that we can now put on the business cards that we are hosting the biggest comic convention in San Diego, which for a small intimate convention in town, it's that's something at least you can put on the card. But obviously things went sideways so fast, and conventions got completely locked down. I mean, what's your kind of convention history when it came to first starting out? Did you go as a fan, or did you pretty much go straight away as a semi-pro?
I think the very first. I'm trying to think back here. That was a long time. I think I may have gone to a show that didn't have any guests before all this started. So I think there was that. And then me and a few buddies printed a fanzine when I was 19. And we stayed up all night to have it ready for that convention.
Wow. And
that was I think my second show, and that had a guest, and that was Mike Grell. And that's when that started. So that fanzine was a book called Graphic Fantasy, which was the first printed appearance of the dragon at that point.
Indeed.
So
it was. I mean, was it a case of were you going to kind of get into the business by going to these shows, or did you get the chance to just go as a fan and just kind of wander around aimlessly?
Well, there's some of that anyway. Even when I do go as a pro, there's usually a little bit of wandering around just to get the lay of the land and see who's there and what's up. I'm often wandering around looking to get back issues and and various things that I'm missing in the world.
Back when comic conventions actually sold comics.
Well, some still do. Those are the ones I gravitate towards. So it really depends. I stopped going to San Diego a few years back because that had just become the no fun zone for me.
Really?
Yeah, it just was. I wasn't having a good time.
Yeah.
So I'd gone 29 consecutive years, I believe, which I thought that's enough.
That's a good innings. That's not too shabby.
Right. Let's not make this 30. And then I do go to New York every year, which you would think would be every bit as horrific as San Diego, but it's really not. Because they've got a designated artist's alley, which is a separate room. And if you can somehow manage to stay in that room, it's the greatest convention ever because it's nothing but comic book creators. And everybody who's in there as a fan is there with intent. They're there because they want to be in that room. So it's awesome.
Yeah, they're not passing through Artist Alley to get to somewhere else.
You see a little bit of cosplay, but not a crazy amount. And most of those people who are cosplaying there are comic fans, and they're there to, talk to comic book artists and writers and everybody else. So it's great.
Who are the creators that you sought out at those shows when you first started out?
When I first started out, whoever I could find. I mean, it was once I was starting to go to decent size shows, then people I sought out would be Jack Kirby, Gil Kane, Walter Simonson, Herb Trimpe. Those were like guys who were influences. So it was like, I want to be near these human beings and I want some of that energy coming my way.
Did you have your like wobbly knees moment meeting?
Yeah, it was all right. You get over it, get past it. I didn't spend enough time with some people to really get a sense of who they are and what they're like and stuff like that. I met Jack like 3 different times, and every time it was utter chaos. So
yeah.
You just get in a quick, hey, hi, how you doing? That sort of thing, and move on.
Yeah.
But I had long conversations with both Herb Trimpe and Gil Kane, so it was like that was super awesome, and I got to work with Herb. So
Indeed.
that was
I mean, when we've talked about on the show, because we kind of also we have tried to do some kind of surgeries where we help people get the most out of their convention. And there is that moment when you have to kind of take a deep breath and face the person on the other side of the table and try and make eye contact and kind of get over that those initial butterflies and realize that these are the people that are making the stories that you've been reading.
It's the same with everybody. Everybody is just a human being. And then once you're engaged in any kind of conversation with anybody, it's like, oh, that's like a regular person, just like me, except his social skills have atrophied even more because he never leaves the house.
What's been your kind of like favorite sort of moments when it comes to interactions? Not only with your own personal fans, but also the people that you consider heroes, but also fans coming up to you. Has there been any moments that kind of stick in your memory as highlights?
Not a huge amount. It's nice when you do kind of see really eye to eye and you can just have a normal human being reaction of whatever. There was a guy I run into every year at the New York Comic Con who's, he's an older guy. So he's a few years older than me. And he just at one point had just decided as a full-grown adult to be like, hey, let me check these comics out. But it was very late in life. He's probably, in his 50s when he started reading comics. And, just having conversations with that guy is just like, oh, this is super awesome that this guy just happened to pluck my book out of a store and then just becomes this huge fan of the book. And so we'll just, have these conversations of, what's going on with that and what's going on. And now it's kind of gone into, how's life treating you, where you're really getting a sense of who people are. And it's just like, oh, this is great. You just go, oh, this guy's, I would consider him a friend in many respects. And that's a really nice thing. And same thing with comics creators, where you're thrown into these situations where you're dealing with, you're seeing people who you never see, and the only time you see them is at these conventions. You have these really brief but very intense relationships where you're just getting caught up on all the stuff that you haven't caught up on in the last, however long it's been. And it's like I have friends who I consider really good friends who I have only seen at conventions. And that's the extent of our relationship. It's like, but I've talked to, like Bruce Timm would be every San Diego. We would go out to dinner and we would hang out and it's like, hey, we're the best friends in the world 4 days out of the year.
I've been speaking to a lot of creators over the lockdown, and obviously as well, there's been some controversies when it comes to the comics industry, and one or two people being outed for their behavior at some conventions. But a lot of people I've been speaking to are looking forward to, if not BarCon, to Restaurant Con, those meals at the end.
Yeah. Those are great. And most of the time, the hanging out at bars and watching people turn into idiots, that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize for that.
Well, the thing is, yes, you can't apologize for the people who are terrible, because those people are legitimate creeps, and it's like, nobody wants to make excuses for that.
No.
At the same time, there are definitely people who are coming to shows because they want to spend time with comic creators and hook up with comic creators. There are groupies whose goal seems to be, how many comic book creators can I sleep with? Which is like, all right, that's an awesome goal. I'm not going to facilitate you in any regard, but I'm a happily married man, so let's just keep that way.
Yeah, when you start watching Almost Famous, on cable or something, and you start thinking that's starting to look what comic conventions are looking like.
It can be, and it can be weird. And the thing is that you tend to think, well, geez, everybody's like me. And then you go out in the real world and it's like, no, not everybody's like me. And some people are going to take really offense at gentle flirting, and other people, that's what they're there for. And that's part of, I just want to feel like I'm alive and attractive to other, and it's like,
well, it's that whole idea of massaging of ego as well. I mean, it's like you say, I mean, it's not even just a case of, oh, I'm famous out in the real world. It's famous outside the door. Or, inside the building, I'm a rock star. You step outside and...
Yeah, no, absolutely. The number of times that I've been recognized on the street it's pretty minimal. I mean, it may be, it's 20, 30 times over the course of a rough, 38-year-old career.
And it is within vicinity of a comic book shop.
Not always. Occasionally there'll be somebody who I'm just, at Tommy's joint or something, and somebody will just be like, oh my God, I can't believe I was eating dinner next to ERIK Larsen all this time. It's like, wow.
So, listen, everyone, if you want to get questions into ERIK, I mean, we've got one or two comments that are coming in already. We've got Solista of Smeg, ERIK in a robe, drinking, screaming, I'm a golden god. There needs to be a pop of that. Yeah. And Tony Lee, one of the advantages of London Film and Comic Con is that comic guests all stay at the Media Guest Hotel, which means less chance of groupies turning up. And he says that was supposed to be a smile, not a wink. So, yeah. There's advantages and disadvantages. Any questions, by all means, guys, do jump in. I mean, it's interesting that you say that you feel that San Diego has just gotten to a point where it's just no fun anymore. I mean, what was the graduation of that? I mean, what was for you that moment when you just felt that this just wasn't something that you were enjoying anymore?
I mean, it was Hollywood gradually taking over, and it was games gradually taking over, and it just got to a point where people would, Artist Alley was next to games, which was next to, and they just kind of interspersed everything. So it wasn't like New York where there was there is an Artist Alley, but it's kind of a different thing because it's all kind of there together and artists are scattered all over the place. And I think I could pretty much tell everybody every year, oh yeah, I was at San Diego. I'm sorry I didn't bump into you. And it would be true every year if I was there or not. Because, there's every time you're sitting there looking at the program on the flight home going, oh, I didn't know Bill Sienkiewicz was there. And it's like, I didn't happen to run into that guy. And it's like, well, just because he signed 3 times and it was at the Hero Initiative booth halfway across the hall. And so many misconnections and so many times you just never see anybody at all. And then, whereas New York is like, well, I'm going to be at this spot and it's going to be in this room. And the spot where I'm at doesn't change even that much from one year to the next. And that's been pretty awesome. But just so many times I've been at San Diego in Artist Alley with people who are just hanging out there to avoid the crowds. Because it's like, oh, the rest of the floor is so packed. Thank God I can go into Artist Alley and just kind of hang out in front of your booth.
Oh, good Lord.
While I'm waiting to go to the Breaking Bad panel. Why is there a Breaking Bad panel at this convention? What possible connection is there with comics? At least with the Marvel movies, you can go, there's this tenuous connection with comic books. That's fine. When you start going, how's that Better Call Saul thing going? It's like, this isn't cool anymore.
Fair enough. I mean, but was it also? Did you see a change in the demographic of the people that were across the table from you as well? I mean, I know that you've mentioned in interviews that you've seen the age range change, but has it been? Was that for the better or for the worse?
That hasn't changed a huge amount. I mean, it's as time goes on, it's less comic book fans and more people who are just there for Hollywood or games or whatever. So it's like, okay, that part has changed. But when Image Comics really hit it big, there was a time there that fans suddenly got a lot younger than they had been, and there was a big influx of new young readers who were coming in because comics were collectibles and comics were super exciting, and I think with a number of people it was, well, I can justify buying comics as an investment, which is like, all right, whatever it takes, man, as long as you read this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I'm reading it because I need to know, which characters are important and what this. And it's like, whatever it takes, as long as you're reading, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, as time's gone on, the convention has changed. The crowds have changed somewhat, but mostly I just feel like if you think you're going to go to San Diego and make a splash, it's like good luck, man.
It's like throwing a pebble into an ocean. It's difficult to make that kind of impression. I totally appreciate that. As a publisher for Image Comics, when you took that role on, you obviously get that a real idea of the importance of Image representing at any convention, not just San Diego, New York, whatever. I mean, is that something that you feel is still as important today with the way that the industry has taken on online marketing? Are comic conventions as important to the comic book industry as they used to be?
I guess we'll find out, right? It's like not having them. How much has that changed the world? How much has that changed the reality? Are people still as enthusiastic about the medium now that comic conventions are no longer existing? Is that all right? I guess we'll see.
I mean, I had a conversation yesterday with Joe Illidge, and the way I described it was, it feels like 2020 is one of those historic lines in the sand. It's a kind of a year zero for many industries, not just comics, but across the board, about how things can move forward and what we can learn from, like you say, the industry kind of coming to a standstill when it comes to distribution for that period of time.
I mean, where I'm at, I don't think stores are open. I know I haven't set foot in a store for 4 months. So, if they're open, they're not calling me about it. So I don't know. I don't know if things are out there. I don't know if people are hand delivering or whatever, but I know for me, it's just, I'm just going to sit here and pretend as though the rest of the world is fine and continue to produce my book.
Yeah.
And hope there's an audience for it.
I think what every creator is really looking for and trying to do. So, I mean, the conversations I've been having with people during lockdown.
You're all funky again. I don't know what the
hell. No!
Whoa.
And we were going so well.
I know. Okay, now you're back. So you just need to talk really loudly, I guess.
It looks like it, doesn't it? Okay. I mean, the conversations I've been having with people with lockdown it's kind of a 50-50 split. People have either been embracing brand new content and kind of taking everything that's on streaming and just really trying to keep the blood pumping with new stuff, or they've been going back to their books on their shelves and kind of almost rediscovering their previous stuff. Which have you been doing?
So much stuff that I've bought, this is a tiny fragment behind me of stuff that's just accumulated over the years, and it's like I've got so many comics that I've never read that it just becomes like, all right, I've still got new stuff that's coming into my life here. So let's just, dive into all that, And then I'm doing an issue right now, which is kind of a tribute to Sunday Funnies.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Every double page spread is like a Sunday page from some comic book. So I'm really looking at a lot of old strips and trying to find stuff that works for both my comic and for the particular strip that I'm parodying. So that's kind of branched me out a little bit in terms of, all right, what am I thinking of, and what can I do, and what's this all about? So that's been kind of interesting.
I've been looking at. I went back and did Miracle Man. I did the Miracle Man run. I did the Warrior issues. I did all of those. So
Yeah,
what books have you been pulling off the shelf?
I wish I had those Warrior magazines. I used to have them all, and then my house burned down in '91.
Indeed.
So I lost tons of stuff. So with Marvel Man, I had to get it in recollected versions or whatever. It's like, okay, this will be out again. It comes back, but those old magazines, Warrior magazines, just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, that was a good book.
What books have you been finding on your shelves? I mean, I can only imagine the ones that you say that you've been pulling out of the wrapper for the first time.
I mean, for the old comics, it's like real golden age stuff. So Captain Marvel Adventures and a lot of the old Simon and Kirby crime books and just various things. When we were doing the next issue project books, where we did Fantastic Comics and Crack Comics and Silver Street, I was buying tons of golden age stuff just because I liked the way the logos looked, like,
yeah,
cool looking logo. I'll get this one, and then maybe we can do an issue of whatever this is. And so I've got a bunch of those, and most of them are really terrible. So, which has its own appeal, There is that too, where you're just like, I'm reading something that is awful. But just the promise of the golden age is so much different than the reality of the golden age. You think of the golden age as like, oh, these guys are pioneers, man. They're just figuring this shit out. This is awesome. And then you actually read it, and it's like, no, they're doing the same tired, cliche-driven stuff that was in the pulps and was in comic strips at the time. It's just the same crap. There's no new approaches. There's no new insight. It's very staid. It's very, straightforward kind of storytelling. Really corny jokes when there are jokes. Just like the oldest, most cornball things.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they were still kind of hampered by the comics code. There
was no comics code.
Oh, no.
There was none of that. They could do whatever the hell they wanted to, and did. And when they did, that's when the comics code kind of came into existence, because they were like, oh, these are warping young minds. But in the real early days, you read those real early Superman, he'd be like killing people. Superman was like, I don't care. And he was a super bully to people who were bad guys. He would just, like, oh, if you're in there beating your wife, well, I'm gonna kick the crap out of you. It's like, whoa. He's like picking up wife beaters and throwing them up against walls, and just, it's like, holy crap, man, this guy's tossing people over buildings. Out you go. It's like, oh, that guy's brutal. I know they settle down, but
I know we've been having the conversation online sort of about how we need a Superman, we need a Man of Steel, we need an American hero now.
You're going again.
Yeah, certainly. Okay, maybe the John Byrne Superman. Maybe not the bait. The throwing
Yeah, I
people off
can't understand
balconies.
a word. Can't understand a word, man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What I can do on my end.
I don't know if it can. I don't know if it's.
What the hell? This makes no sense.
Listen, we'll muscle our way through. We'll try our best. Okay. I mean, like I said, we've got a couple of comments. We'll let you talk about those, and we'll go to these. Solicitor Smeg. This is more an Image Comics question. When you pitch a comic to Image, how far should you have the story? I mean, did you have everything you'd be doing with Savage Dragon planned out? Oh, that's a tough one because I mean,
no. You. If you're doing an ongoing story, eventually you are just making it up on the fly, unless you just have a huge overall arc. But you don't need to plan that far ahead. It depends on what you're doing. If you have a mini series, or you've got a series where you're like, I want it to go from here to here, that's one thing. But I mean, really, what's required is 6 sequential pages just to show people that you know what the hell you're doing. That pages are going to look like something.
Well, I mean, I held the panel with Eric Stevenson at Comicsalopia last year, and when he was talking about submissions, he actually said, ideally, what I'd really like to see is 3 or 4 completed issues, just to prove that you can actually tell a story over time. And there's initial pitch, that's fine, but that then has to translate to an ongoing story and actually showing that you can kind of keep to deadline and deliver.
I think you want that before you start publishing, where you're like, but in terms of an initial pitch, I don't very few guys are going to go, I'm going to produce 4 issues and then I'm going to pitch the book, just because that can be a huge investment of time and money, and if you can't sell it anywhere, then it's like, well, that's good practice, but I didn't make a sale, and I'm not being published, so that's all it was practice.
Sure.
Which is fine too. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just kind of finding your footing, and when you're really, really starting out, just knowing how big do I draw, and what does that look like when I shrink it down? What am I losing? That can be a huge eye opener to see stuff in print, to go, I was fussing with this little area here, and now I can't even tell that I spent 3 hours on that.
Yeah.
And there's a learning curve that goes with it. With my own book, Savage Dragon, I had published those fanzines when I was a kid, so I had these stories that I had done. I had drawn this character since I was like in 4th grade, so I had all these crazy comics that I had drawn as a kid that were just, typing paper folded in half and stapled up the side, and I made like 60 issues of Dragon before I did anything, before I even was published. So when I did the graphic fantasy stories, those were kind of a continuation of what I had done as a kid, but now it was quasi-professional, semi-professional. I mean, it was still pretty shaky, but it was getting there. So my goal when I came on to do Savage Dragon as a regular book was, I wanted to start at a different place, because starting where I was at when I was a 4th grader would be insane, because those stories were just madness. I had no conception of the world at all. But I wanted to get to those stories that I had done in graphic fantasy. So it's like, I'm going to start at a different place, but I'm going to get to that same place. And then once I'm at that place, then I can go any direction I feel like going. At that point, it's like the world's my oyster. I can just explore this world. So that's what I did. That was the goal, is to eventually work those stories into continuity. And they were worked into continuity but they are issues 63 and 65 of Savage Dragon. So it's relatively far into it.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it was like, oh, I can do anything, including blow up the world and start over again. So let's do that.
Fair enough. I mean, you've got, let's have a look at a couple of comments here. Tony Lee, I was always told 800 pages and a cover to show you understand the marketing side. Okay.
Your submission is your sales pitch.
Yeah.
Is basically what it is. Whatever it takes you to sell your book is what you should do. You know,
Yeah.
you're giving me I mean, not me, because Eric Stevenson deals with not for me, please. I did my tour of duty and I'm not.
Yeah. You've earned your stripes.
But you're trying to make a sale. Whatever you think you need to do to make that sale is ideal. I would say keep the writing part of it, the pitch part, as brief as you can make it, and the comics part as much as you can make it, because reading those pitches can be really, really tedious. You know, but if you can boil it down to something really basic of, this is the story of, you know, this is the story of Midas Mouse, who finds himself in the real world and has to cope with being the only mouse in this reality and figuring out how to live his life. And I'm going from point A to point B, and by the end of it, he's president of the United States, you know, whatever. You can start, that's like, all right, that's my overall pitch, and then here's 10 pages showing you these characters going through their paces and what this comic is actually like. You know, that's a pitch. That's a decent enough thing. And I'm not sitting there going, oh, I've got 40 pages of typewritten blah 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 that I got to wade through to try and figure out what this guy's trying to say.
Yeah.
Give me if you're telling your mom about your comic, what do you say to her? What's the story?
What's the old phrase? Keep it simple, stupid. I think that's the one. You just keep it nice and tight and go from there. Into the Blue Mister. Dave Sim always claimed that Cerebus was always meant to be a 300 issue story. I have my doubts about that. You know what? I have my doubts about that as well.
I think when he probably started out, he had no idea, but at some point he was like, I'm going for 300, damn it. But, as much as he said, I've got this grand plan, and I want these 300 issues to make sense as this long sweeping arc. When you actually read it, it's like, wow, this thing's a mess. Because he's trying all sorts of different things and going in different places, and there wasn't a lot of closure to a lot of pieces of it, where he was like, oh, look, Cerebus has got, there's other aardvarks around. It's like, well, that never really came back around again in a coherent way that makes a lot of sense. In any case, I'm not sitting here with any specific number of issues that I'm determined to get to. I'm just, I'll go till I completely run out of steam, and then.
Well, I mean, you've got Dan Berry that's saying, hey, Eric, congrats on next week's Savage Dragon 250, which is a cracking milestone. Congratulations on that.
Well, I like to call it a good start. So I would hope to be able to do at least 300 issues and beyond. I'd like to be able to just go create the kind of series where when I get to the end of it, people will go, all right, I'll try for number 2, but I can't do that.
Fair enough. We got a question from Solicitor Smeg. Now, just to let you know, Solicitor Smeg is a regular person who asks questions on the show. He likes to ask the big ones. So let's see what he comes up with on this one. Do you think it might be better for new creators to focus only on smaller conventions with a personal touch, since to have what considers a hit comic takes less sales than other mediums.
Oh,
I think that's back to the old.
I mean, to be a small, a big fish in a small pond kind of thing, you're going to get more attention if you're one of 6 guys than if you're one of 600 guys. That's for sure. But really, it comes down to doing work that looks good. You know,
Yeah.
if you got a terrible looking book and you're in a small con, you're still a guy with a terrible looking book. And if you've got a really unbelievably beautiful looking comic at a huge con, then you can become that guy who's like, oh my God, have you seen that thing? And it's amazing, you know, and it's great to be that guy too. So it really does come down to the work, because you can do just dreadful stuff and be at a comic convention and be like, yeah, don't go down there, man. That's scary. So
fair enough. I mean, when it came to Image and making that impact, and because obviously for yourself and for the other founders as well, I can imagine there was that sense of we're kind of reclaiming our control over our books. We're reclaiming some financial security with the deal as well. And it was a really it was a bold and ballsy statement on your part. But do you think that people still take those big leaps nowadays, like you guys did with you and the rest of the founders? Or was that really the last ambitious shoot for the moon?
It's hard to make the kind of leap that we did, because there really aren't those kind of creators at this point who could make that kind of leap. I don't know that I could pick 6 guys jumping off of 6 books that would have that kind of impact at this point. Mostly because so many artists are jumping from book to book all over the place anyway. And that it seems like, okay, well, Spider-Man is ongoing and there isn't a Spider-Man artist at this point. It seems like every few issues some other guy is filling in. So, you know, if the main Spider-Man artist is suddenly coming over and doing something at another company, do you even notice for a while? I mean, it could just seem like.
Oh. And we appear to have lost him. I am trying to work out if it's myself or if it's Eric or his connection. We have no idea. We have no idea what happened there.
Yeah, now you're sounding all crazy again too. So
okay,
lovely.
From where you finished. Go on. Where were you in your train of thought?
I have no idea, man.
No idea. Oh my! But okay, so I mean, if we from my point of perspective, and like you say, that whole idea of creators and writers and artists nowadays very much jumping from self-publishing to the big two, to working within the machine, to almost creating their own. What's your take on the comics industry in 2020? Because it's like I said, it feels like there's this sense of a line in the sand, a new.
Well, the thing right now is it's huge, and it's not huge in terms of sales. It's huge in terms of just the sheer volume of books. You know, when Image started and 6 guys left, those 6 guys left a huge vacuum. Whereas if you're a publisher now, Marvel and DC, they're publishing 100 books each. So if you have 6 people who are leaving 100 books, that's not a very big vacuum, and those jobs can be filled relatively easily, just because of the huge talent pool. and that people are shuffling on off and on books all the time anyway. So it's a different thing. The advantages are that when I was growing up, there was all this complaining about, oh, comics are nothing but superheroes. Everybody's publishing superheroes. It's the same thing over and over again. And now you've got publishers like Image and Dark Horse who are doing a lot of other stuff. Suddenly you do have the same kind of variety that you would have in the Golden Age. In the Golden Age, it was like there were humor books, there were Westerns, there were science fiction. There was kind of this wide range of material. And we didn't, and then, by the time the 60s and 70s rolled around, it suddenly was like you had Archie comics, and then you had, so there's this handful of humor books, and then the rest of it was superheroes. And we're to that point again where it's like, oh, now we've got this huge variety again. Isn't that awesome? And people can go and do these other kind of books and tell those other kind of stories. And that's great. So
when it comes to, we've got a couple of questions that are coming in. Don't worry, guys, we are going to get to your questions. We'll get there. I've just got a couple more. Certainly when it comes to the ideas of what you had for you and the founders had for Image Comics, for yourselves creatively and financially. But what do you think ultimately will be the legacy of Image Comics? Is it that kind of democratization of creative control? I
think so. I think that really has become more than anything is just being able to have absolute complete control over your book. At this point, and as it's been for the last 28 years, I don't have anybody going over the book. I have got no input in terms of any kind of oversight from the publisher of any kind. I can just do whatever the hell I want to from page to page, and I often do, which doesn't always go over so well, but what the hell.
It's handy to have. Go on.
And we've got a company where that's the case across the board, where we've got all these creators who are doing whatever the hell they want to on their own books. And if they want feedback, there are people who are here who can give them feedback, but nobody can tell anybody what to do on their book, and that's super liberating, and it's not like anything else. I've come back and stuck my toe into doing some Marvel DC stuff occasionally, and it's just really weird to suddenly have somebody going, we expected to see a cover sketch. How come you just sent in a cover? What the hell, man? And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's part of your process. Oh, you mean you need to see a plot first? Oh crap, I didn't realize. I just thought you started drawing like I did. And it's so different. Like, I don't get to pick my letter. I don't get to pick my colorist. What the hell, man? I've got my guys. I gotta keep these guys busy. Come on.
You see, this is what happens when you get spoiled.
Yeah, and it's great being spoiled. That's the thing. Is being spoiled is kind of awesome.
A couple of questions coming in. Comments, I think, as well. Solicitor Smeg, is there any chance we will see some Savage Dragon Funko Pops? Just saying, in my mind, a dung pop needs to happen. You need to talk to the guys.
That is their call. That is their call. If they want to do something like that, I will absolutely entertain it. If that's something that a fan wants to make happen, get as many of your fan friends as you can to contact them and say this needs to be a thing.
Yeah, it's not pestering it. It's not pestering Eric on this one. It's pestering Funko. Absolutely.
But I don't know that creators are pestering them and saying, "Hey, make toys of my stuff." I think it's mostly been. I don't know.
I think I could name one or two that probably do. But
Well,
there we go.
at the same time, that's not my priority. My priority is I have comic books I want to make, and that's my main thing.
Sure.
And I'm not going to be knocking on doors down in Hollywood trying to get somebody else's dream going. My dream is to do more Savage Dragon comics.
Fair
And,
enough.
you know, I've had a cartoon. I've known what that's like, you know, and it's kind of fun and it's kind of cool to see your characters walking around going, oh, that thing on his head actually works. That's cool. But beyond that, there's very little entertainment value and a lot of heartache and aggravation that comes along with doing something like that. And, you know, it's like, oh, if that can be avoided, awesome.
Fair enough. Into the Blue Mister is asking, can I still redeem my coupon from Savage Dragon 3 for Image Comics 0?
You're welcome to try.
Might be a little bit late on that one.
Yeah, you missed the window on that one, buddy.
And Roshan is joining us. Hello, Roshan. It's been a while since you and I have spoken. Have I asked what the background story on Cletus Cassidy with David Michelin?
Michelini,
sorry.
No, I don't think he did ask me.
No, no. In that case, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, that one was. I mean, I just in terms of that, the writer asked me to draw somebody, and I just drew the Joker, and I just figured, you know, he'll be colored differently when he's in print. He's going to be colored as though he's a flesh guy, and his hair is going to be some color. But I just drew Cletus Cassidy as straight on. This is the Joker in jail with whoever. Just like let the colorists deal with that. And what was actually kind of funny is that at some point there was a Marvel DC crossover, and in it Batman met Spider-Man, and the two villains were the Joker and Carnage. And so the artist there had to draw the Joker and Cletus Cassidy, and it's like, it's the same guy.
We've got a question here, and this one's actually, like I told you, Sir Lister Smeg comes up with the big ones, but this, I think we'll use this as a jumping point to kind of to wrap up the conversation. And we finally managed to get across the bridge as the slats were breaking behind us, but we're almost there. This one's more a big picture question when it comes to the industry and where we're at the moment. I'm really sorry to do this to you, but are you and the rest of Image bigwigs at all tempted to go with a different distributor than Diamond now that their monopoly is a bit shaky? This has been a conversation that we've had on the show for the last couple of months about Diamond, and my position's changed over the months, because it started off very much a case of it's a monopoly, there needs to be other options, there needs to be a shake-up. But then you speak to retailers and they're like, no, we like it.
You know, I mean, they've been good to us. They were good people to deal with. We're not sitting there going, let's make everybody's life difficult. And also, in terms of retailers do get volume discounts going through one distributor, and it certainly cuts down on shipping costs when you've got all these different comics coming from one source. So it's going to make comics more expensive for retailers if they go that way. If we went to another distributor, and ultimately that's going to hurt retailers more than it's going to help them. So I don't think it's wise unless something arises that is super advantageous to both us and retailers, you know. So if a situation like that comes up where it's like, oh no, this is going to be better for everybody, then possibly that's something we could entertain. But I don't think there's any point in making a move just for the sake of making a move. I just don't see the advantage to doing something like that.
I mean, when I saw a lot of commentary around that time, especially when DC started announcing their new distribution model, I think a lot of people were, especially retailers, were just turning around and saying, "Is this really the time to do this?" The timing was just
timing ever. And DC, I think, was looking at it going, "Our comics aren't being distributed right now. We got to get our comics out there. We got to get them in stores." And I don't think they were looking at the lay of the land. And the reality was that a lot of retailers are sitting there going, "Don't send us comics. Our stores aren't open and they can't be open. This does not help us at all to be suddenly sent all this product at a time when we can't sell it."
Yeah.
So, I mean, what can you say? These guys aren't always
it's a tough
sharpest knife in the drawer.
Yeah. You've got, I mean, we'll wrap up with a question, but just to quickly say hello to Clydeen Nee, who's watching. Good friend. Clydeen, of course, is the person that runs the Artist Alley at San Diego Comic-Con, and obviously, I'm guessing you two know each other well.
I have met Clydeen frequently, and I love her dearly. And I hope she's doing well.
Like indeed.
I do miss her a lot. That's one of the bright spots of going to San Diego was seeing Clydeen.
Indeed.
So.
In terms then of comic conventions, and we'll finish up on this question, going forward and appearing at shows again, like you say, you're in lockdown. It's something that you're taking very seriously.
Very much.
Yeah. I mean, when do you feel that you would be prepared to be going out and meeting fans at conventions again?
Once I've been vaccinated.
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's what it's either got to be like, we have 0 cases in the United States and this is totally taken care of, or, there's a vaccine out there, people are taking it, and things are looking good. Because right now it is just a nightmare. And I'm not remotely ready to go stepping out into that.
Fair enough.
It may get to a point where suddenly people are doing these mass signings at their homes and having like 4,000 books shipped to people's houses and stuff like that. I mean, that may become a reality for some people, just so that books can get signed and stuff like that. But I'm not even really in a hurry to do anything like that. It's like, I don't even want to see my mailman. It's like, I don't want to deal with this.
Fair enough.
It's like we're getting groceries delivered and going, okay, is he out of sight? Has he driven away? So we can take these bags in. Now we got to wash everything. It's like, geez. Yeah, my wife is hardcore on all this stuff. It's like,
yeah.
All right, honey, I'll go along with that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, so I can imagine a fair number of virtual comic conventions on your horizon.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that. There's been a ton of podcasts and a lot of remote stuff, and it's been great.
Yeah. When it's worked.
Local establishments.
Yeah. when it's worked. When it works, it's fine.
Yeah. When it works, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
So it's people try various things, but
we've got to look at the options. But there we go. Well, listen, I mean, before I let you go, I certainly want to say thank you very much indeed to Russ Burlingame for introducing us. When he dropped the email, it was literally like a day or so before the Sunday when I was looking for a guest, and our paths almost crossed on that particular one. But it's great that I've managed to get the chance to get you on the show and to talk to you. Erik, I wish you all the very best during the rest of lockdown. I'm looking forward to reading 250 when it comes next week, and obviously looking forward to more stories from you going forward. Erik, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, sir.
It has been a pleasure for me as well, and hope it's best for you and yours.
Excellent stuff. Where's the best place for people to find out more about what you do and what's coming up for you?
Just savagedragon.com, imagecomics.com, And then I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter as well as ERIK J. Larsen, because somebody else had snagged the ERIK Larsen. But just make sure you spell my name right, and we're good to go.
Fair enough. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for coming on, and we will see you at a comic convention somewhere down the line.
Look forward to it.
Excellent stuff. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. Excellent stuff. So there you go, ERIK Larsen. A little bit of technical issues there, but we got there, and we got a great conversation with him. What I'm going to do is edit all that together and get that up as an audio version in the next couple of hours. Might take a little bit longer than I expected, but just to make sure that that goes up on Spotify, on the iTunes, and also on SoundCloud as well. But once again, thanks to ERIK, and of course, thanks to Russ for introducing us and to getting him on the show. Right, that's our show for today. I'm now going to go off and get myself sorted, because I do want to keep a track on what's being announced by San Diego Comic-Con International, because of course they're starting to release information about SDCC at home, and they're going to be doing that pretty much as if the show is a physical event. So they're releasing the preview night information today. They're releasing Thursday for Thursday, Friday for Friday, and all the way throughout the course of the weekend. Looking forward to seeing what they're going to be coming up with, and of course how they're going to be supporting retailers and artists at their virtual artist alley and exhibition floor. It's not all about the panels, but we're going to keep an eye on what San Diego Comic-Con is doing. Likewise, I'm really curious to see what Clydeen has got planned for us for that particular element of the show. Thank you very much indeed to everyone for all the kind words. Colin Matheson's been watching. Thanks for joining us, Roshan. I hope we got that question answered for you, sir. I was curious as to see where he was going to go with it, but there we go. Into the blue, mister. Battling through the technical issues. Yeah, we got there eventually. So there we go. Right. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, yeah, like I say, this Sunday. We don't have a guest lined up, because what we're going to do is a panel breakdown. It is SDCC at home. We're going to find out exactly what is being announced. The rumor, of course, which we've heard over the last 24 hours, is that Marvel will be skipping SDCC at home. They're not going to be putting a presentation forward. That we are maybe seeing something a little bit further down the line. If you can remember a couple of years back when Marvel Comics decided, or Marvel Entertainment decided, to put on their own presentation in Hollywood. So they skipped San Diego completely. I find it a bit weird that they're doing so, considering that there is stuff that they need to get out there. They need to kind of let people be a little bit more assured that is going to be coming down the line. So we're going to be seeing, like say, the stuff that's coming from Disney Plus, the delayed Phase 3 for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would have liked to have seen Marvel do something. We'll see what happens. What is going to be the big showcase panel on the Saturday? Taking up space on YouTube, we'll find out. We're going to keep an eye on all the panel breakdowns, and we're going to do a full update of that on Sunday. So it's going to be a little bit dry. It's going to be a little bit of me reading through lists. But I think, as always, what I'm going to try and do is find those panels, those presentations that may get lost in the shuffle, which may be overshadowed by some of the bigger panels. At the end of the day, that is, for me, the key to San Diego Comic-Con, the variety of content that you can see at those shows. The smaller panels, those panels that you kind of just stumble across. How are those going to find an audience at SDCC at home? We'll discuss that on Sunday. Also going to be looking forward to announcing a couple of guests for the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the week of Comic-Con. And of course, what we've got planned once San Diego Comic-Con has been and gone. But that's our show for today. Thank you very much indeed. I'm now going to take myself to edit and get myself through piecing together that ERIK Larsen interview. Hope you enjoyed it. Of course, if there's anybody that you want to see on the show, there's any guests, Clydeen, if you can please send a blanket email out to your artist friends. Let us know if there's anyone that you feel that you would like to see on the show. Yeah, do let us know. Karma Savage, bye-bye until Sunday. SDCC at home, yay. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Oh, Michael P is telling us Wednesday is up. I'm going to go. I'm going to check out that listing, see what preview night is going to look like at SDCC at home. From us to you, we're back again on Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT, for another Talking Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. Very much Talking Con this Sunday. From me to you, take care, look after yourselves, wash your hands, wear your masks, and we'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.